to the Biscuit Boys show with him, Mrs. Brown, and me, the Gabby Cabby, on SRB Radio in association with Griffiths Clothing and supporting the Jeff Astle Foundation. On today's show, we have music by Lava Frog, Southbank Pros, the Reverent even, Cavaliers, plus a whole lot more. And guests a little bit later in the show are Saints legend Matthew Tissier and Small Faces guru John Hellier. But first, let's kick off with Always the Same by Paul Bassom. That really proper ended quick, didn't it?
God.
Now, with Paul Bassom,
really
I think that might be the theme, to be fair. I think he wrote it, but I think it's from the theme.
Yeah, it's got a good chance.
But it is kind of like a new Biscuit Boys show. We're always reinventing ourselves. I mean, we started off with the blind pilot and a parrot, didn't we? Yeah. And lots of features.
And a beautiful hostess as well.
Yeah, Rachel Lauren.
What happened to Rachel?
Well, I mean, she's still doing her stuff out there in New York, isn't she?
Yeah.
We'll have to link back up with her. We then got involved with a record label that was probably a bit of a disaster, but we did get a lot of records free. I mean, we've nicked a few off YouTube and converted them and done illegal stuff like that. But no one's really that bothered, are they? At the end of the day, it's all about promoting new music and paying homage to great music of the past and wrapping it up in a Biscuit Boys style where we just have a laugh and link up with people that want to link up with us.
Exactly.
So it's grand.
And good morning, Anne-Marie Johnson, our number one fan.
Do you know what, Anne-Marie, and this is a big if.
Yeah.
Because although it is a little word, do you remember Telly Savalas when he done that if?
Great song,
wasn't it?
Great voice.
And if we had thousands and thousands of people like Anne-Marie, we'd be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we've only got one is,
One
by the
better than
by.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing with internet radio and stuff and shows that we try and put together. There's that many, and we're just a kind of, if you're looking at, say, the human body, we're the kind of like little bit of nail clippings off your right toe. and your little toe, aren't you, really? But, you know, together, if people were to come together, if there was some such unity within music, you know, it could make a massive difference, and you would therefore get artists, brilliant artists, breaking through, getting airplay, because at the moment they don't. But our show now is, we're going to be doing 2 interviews every week. This week it's Matt Tissier and John Hellier. We're going to be talking about football and John's books on the small faces, and he's got a book coming out with our mate Alan Hudson as well. Next week we've got Jan Lamb, who's done a book about the Angel of the Underground. So, you know, we're doing all... You just crack on and put it the right way, because it aids you talking, although, to be fair, I think you're probably better off the other way around. So we're changing it about. Chris is going to be doing all the music, so keep sending in your tracks into tracks@sports-radio.co.uk. They're all going to be pretty much unsigned songs, or songs that you send in, that you may be on a little label, an independent label, and you're under the radar or emerging. We're not playing any of the bigger stuff. It's not worth it, because when we do, Facebook just mutes us.
Yeah, even though we are licensed.
There's a lot of people out there that wish they'd do it for the whole 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
But if we play something from Paul Weller, all the small faces, well, it is small faces, isn't it? There's no the. Or probably Stone Foundation. Certainly Neil Diamond, Bittersweet Caroline, because the cricket starting this week at Edgbaston, we just get muted, so it's not worth it. So we're just going to play records sent to us by you. Come on then, what we got next?
We're going to start off with a track by Sombre Moon. I haven't heard this one. This is called
And I've got to say, I haven't heard none of them.
No. This is called Blurred Reality.
Get a glass of water.
Pardon?
Get a glass of water.
No, yeah. an 80s,
Yeah.
70s, no 80s vibe there, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's something there. I mean, again, it
Not your bag.
well,
Not really.
Big
No.
John Vangelis kind of thing. Do you think? Did you get
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vangelis with a bit of disco vibe.
Vangelis? Was John not then? Was John a bit more kind of like new romantic stuff?
John, who?
John and
Anderson.
Vangelis.
That's John Anderson with Vangelis.
Who?
John Anderson.
Who's he then? I wasn't particularly into John Anderson.
John
and
Anderson
Vangelis.
from Yes.
Oh, well, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
I'm not. My cousin was massive into Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
He was a potholer as well. I mean, all my family
Makes
are very
sense.
intelligent apart from me.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
And
yeah.
he lives. Rob lives up in Halifax these days. But his band was Yes. So you know, when you're kids and you're going round to your cousin's house and they're playing records, it's like, you know, can you either turn it down
I've done
or
it, sorry,
turn it off?
very unprofessional.
Sorry,
Very unprofessional, really.
who's that?
What?
I was just saying about my cousin who's proper into Yes, and he was into that kind of like proggy stuff. Would you put Floyd into a bit of that kind of it? You know,
With Anderson, Johnson, yeah, of course. Yeah.
you know.
It's a bit
What
all
other
proggy,
bands
yeah.
would you put into that envelope?
I suppose Genesis at the time.
Yeah.
King Crimson.
They're
that
all
type
kind of like
yeah.
clever people, weren't they? That
Oh, yeah.
dabbling in music.
Yeah.
You know, I would suggest that was more kind of university music than working class vibes down on the street. And,
Yeah.
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
I want.
You don't have to
Six
think
lights.
too much.
By
Sorry,
the
yeah.
way.
That's
Have you got them?
Didn't it used to be 5?
Well, 5 or 6. If you only got 5, if you've
I've
only
only got
got
2 at the
5, give me
moment.
5 of the best.
I'm going to think some up after the next track. Are we going to talk football yet? Or what?
We're going to be having a chat with Matt at 11. Talking about football, got to say, I'm a little bit absolute shocked, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've just, you know, when you look at Facebook, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
always on Facebook, and you find great things, wonderful things, and very, very sad things as well. And Jeanette, me good friend, you know, made in Brum. Only a pound, or it was when I first started with Dave.
Yeah.
Dave's a good lad, big mate of mine.
Yeah.
Well, Jeanette had posted up a picture here on a Facebook, and they got the Blues family. Sadly, there'll be an empty space on Saturday. Rest in peace, Clive. So I've just messaged her, and I've gone on to Clive's Facebook page, and Eddie Crouch, I listened to him. He's a big dentist. He was on with Daz the other week when I was doing a bit with Daz Ale. It's got so sad to see my great friend and brilliant dentist Clive Harris has passed away today. God rest you, Clive. And honestly, it's actually just knocked me for 6. I mean, me and Clive, the only communication that we had recently was like we were having a go at each other, because Clive is of a certain persuasion and I'm a mad socialist. So we do differ. But, you know, I did say that, you know, although we have had our rows, the first thing I'd do to you, mate, is give you a cuddle and a kiss when I see you at St Andrews. But sadly, I'm not going to have the opportunity to do that again. So I'm going to dedicate this show to my good friend, although we had lots of rows on Facebook, but my really, really good friend, Clive Harris, and I'll miss you, mate.
Mm.
Come on, let's play a record.
There you go. We're going to have In the Air from Lava Frog. Great name. like 80s.
You put music down.
Honestly,
I reckon you've gone to vinyl recording. You've got that the 70s.
I've heard none of this stuff. No. That seems to have like a bit of a Simple Minds.
Yeah, a bit like you.
I know you don't mean it.
How does my microphone sound now? Because
hang
you've
on,
changed it.
Listen to it. I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people can tell we have a great production meeting.
Yeah.
Does it?
I'll
Is
tell
there
you
anything coming out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
Really?
Yeah, you sound a bit warmer,
Oh, okay.
a bit nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on then, let's have your 6 likes or your 5 likes.
I'm not
How
ready
many
yet.
have
Oh, sorry. I was doing the microphone.
you can't multitask, can you?
No, wait, no. I've started.
Start, stop, finish.
Yeah, I've started, so I'll do it.
Got
I'll
it.
do it after the next
Well,
one.
if you put another track on then, and by that time, we'll be almost ready for our first interview of the day with Matt
All right,
Letizia.
this is JDXL. I think they couldn't think of a name.
I don't know, it just sounds like a label in the back of a jumper, doesn't it? But
Does
let's
it?
hear it.
Yeah. This is Rather Be With.
Whatever you want to, whenever you want to, 'cause baby I want you here with me. Girl, you make me feel some type of way. I wish this feeling would go away. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be within you. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be within you. I'll do whatever you want to, whenever you want to, 'cause baby I want you here with me. I'll do whatever you want to, whenever you want to, 'cause baby I want you here with me. Girl, you make me feel some type of way. I wish this feeling would go away. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be within you. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be within you. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be with you. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be with you. Ain't nobody rather be with, ain't nobody rather be with you. You're what I wanted, you're what I wanted, honey. I know that there's nobody else but you. I wanna get you back, I gotta get you back. No, nobody else but you. You're what I wanted, you're what I wanted, honey. I know that there's nobody else but you. Nobody else, nobody else, nobody else but you. Nobody else, nobody else but you. Honey, I know that there's nobody else but you. Nobody else, nobody else, nobody else but you.
Real
Electronic side.
There is, isn't
Thinking about it, I need to change the old one. Moved in, by the way.
Pardon?
Yeah, moved out.
This is
moved in,
house
moved in,
number-
moved out. Yeah,
Yeah.
just up the road. Yeah, a Tuesday thought. It's hashtag. It's trending on Twitter. National Avocado Day today as well.
Do you like avocado?
No, not really.
No.
No, I think I've only had one once.
Right, okay. You didn't like it?
Well, it wasn't that memorable, to be fair.
I don't like the look of
Easily
them. I don't.
forgettable, to be fair. Man United FC is trending as well. He's not happy, is he?
Who?
Jose.
No.
Yeah, nappy. Social mobility. Glorious Goodwood. Do you like
Starts
racing?
today?
Yeah,
no,
you like
I'm
racing.
not a big horse racing
And
fan, no.
Love Island's finished.
Oh,
no.
I've never
nothing
seen it
about
at all.
that. Nah, neither have I. I've been watching EastEnders recently, though.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Any of us are Stuart.
True story.
Stuart's balmy, you know.
Yeah.
I like Danny
Reminds
Dyer.
me of you.
You're joking?
Yeah.
About 4 times as big.
Yeah, he's
as
a fat version of
lunatic.
you, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gaza? I mean, Gaza ain't in EastEnders.
No.
But he's offered Danny Dyer out for a charity boxing match, you know.
Fair enough.
But I don't think Danny, come to the party. Because
Nah.
his daughter was in Love Island.
She won it apparently, didn't she?
Did she really?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know, because I
Yeah.
don't watch it. But I did hear that Danny Dyer's daughter was in it. And so he's moved on now to Vinnie Jones. He's asked Vinnie Jones because he grabbed his...
Yeah, I watched him last night, a film.
Who, Vinnie?
Yeah, Vinny, yeah.
He's on Talk Sport a bit, isn't he now?
Is he?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why, because he doesn't know anything about football, does he?
No.
I mean, that Wimbledon team, the crazy gang. I remember Oppie telling me when Mick Harford went to Wimbledon, he said, compared to Birmingham City, you lot of pussycats.
Mm.
Right, come on then.
Probably right.
6 likes or 5.
Oh, sorry.
You know, in
Okay.
your own time.
I like fish without heads. Eating
Presume,
wise.
yeah, I was going to say,
I
you
can't-
wouldn't actually go down to
No, do you like that?
Shirley Aquatics and buy one without
No,
head,
no,
would you?
no. Do you like that when you go to a restaurant and they give you a fish with a head?
To be fair, if I have a piece of fish, I'm funny with fish.
Yeah.
Because I don't like bones.
No, I'm not too good on bones. It tastes horrible.
Yeah. And they get stuck in your throat.
I do, yeah.
So I tend to really not bother with fish.
No.
But if I did have a fish in a restaurant, if it had a head on and it was smiling at me,
It's the eyes,
I'd
isn't
send it back,
The
yeah.
eyes.
Fish eyes.
Aye, aye.
Go on.
I like picking scabs.
Why?
It's quite therapeutic.
Really?
Don't you think?
Your own scabs.
Well, not somebody else's.
Yeah.
I prefer my own, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you cut yourself on purpose to get a scab
No,
to
not on
peel it?
purpose, no. But if I've got one there
When was
and
the
it
last
looks-
time you cut yourself then that scabbed?
this morning.
Did you? What'd you
Well, I
cut
didn't
it
cut
on?
myself this morning. I cut a long time ago and I've got a scab, so
Yeah.
I'll show it on.
Okay.
There you go.
Nice. And you just like to pick
Yeah,
it?
it's quite,
Yeah,
quite nice.
you went normal.
Interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I like the word cholesterol.
Yeah, it's a great word, isn't it? Cholesterol. Yeah.
Good word.
There are some beautiful words.
There are. Red moon,
Kerfuffle.
blood moon.
I love kerfuffle. That's probably my favourite word.
Yeah,
kerfuffle.
Ellen uses that all the time. It's just-
Really?
Yeah.
Blood moon.
Blood moon,
What does that mean? How do you get a blood moon?
exactly.
What happens?
Exactly.
They've
shown us and told us on.
But I mean, I
we
don't know
understand.
nothing about planets.
No.
I don't know much about anything really, if I'm
no,
honest.
nothing.
But is it the fact that Mars is quite close to the Earth and the Moon?
Apparently it's quite
and
close,
and
yeah.
it's reflection of Mars
Yeah.
that makes the Moon look a bit redder.
Could be.
Mm.
We don't know, do we?
No.
We ain't that,
Well,
we ain't
you
that
know,
clever
That's
anyway.
my assumption.
Yeah. And lastly,
Yeah.
football rumours. I love football.
Well, there was a big rumour about Birmingham City, wasn't there, yesterday? Mind you, the thing is with Blues, you can have a rumour, can't you? And think, there's nothing in it.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter what it... I mean, this is a team that goes from one disaster to the next one seamlessly. This is the team, the club, that many years ago we were going to sign Diego Maradona.
Yeah.
And you'd look and you go, right, yeah, it's the Blues, innit? So you go, Blues have got into administration, you go, mate, it's the Blues, innit?
Yeah.
No matter what happens at Birmingham City, you go, it's Blues, innit? And that's pretty much... So if I was going to write a book, it'd be called It's the Blues, innit? So I don't get too excited,
No.
too up, too down. I do look at the social media and I like having a look at the Blues fans and Villa goading each other because the other week they looked as though they was going into administration.
Yeah.
And then they get bought out by
Exactly. Yeah.
multi-billionaires.
I remember saying at the time, I wouldn't say anything, lads, because
Well, I wouldn't because...
it turns around so quickly.
Of course it does, but that's Birmingham and Villa, ain't it? Birmingham City and Aston Villa, for people that don't know, that might be over the other side of the world, the two football clubs in our hometown of home city of Birmingham. And they're like two siblings. The one ain't got a pot to piddle in,
Yeah.
and whatever he does in his life, he's going to bugger it up. but in a nice way. You can't help but like the kid. And the other one, he just goes through life. He could actually fall off a roof and end up in a brand new suit.
Yeah.
Couldn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're there at Rackham's in the new suit, off there going pull a bird, page 3. Do you know, it's like Villa will always be like that. And I think that, you know, Villa have always had the success. Birmingham largely haven't. But, you know, really, I've always said that I think Birmingham needs a strong Aston Villa, because when we were kids and all my mates were Villa fans and we used to have the arguments and the rows and stuff, and it was almost like a race to the top, although Blues never got over halfway. Villa did win the league and then went on to win the European Cup. But now, for the last few seasons, it's almost been tables reversed and it's a race to the bottom. So let's hope that Villa do well and Birmingham City do even better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Birmingham then gets projected above Manchester and Liverpool and London, because we're in the doldrums, boy.
Yeah. On that subject, Andrew just says, morning guys, what do you think of all the problems at our club at the moment? Do you think it's serious, as the rumours make out? Do you think Monk will lose patience and walk?
All I'll say is managers will stay where they've got some dough to work with, generally speaking. And you're only ever going to be as good as the players that you've got. So if you've got poor players, you're going to be a poor manager. If you've got good players, stands a chance you're going to be a good manager. And, you know, managers like players do tend to move on. So if there isn't any money and it continues and he can't see any light out that tunnel, possibly he will move on. Who knows? Only Gary Monk can answer that question.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, come on, let's play a record, and then on the back of that, we'll have a chat with God.
Okay, this is Southbank Crows and a track called Runaway Boot.
Left my heart in that sunny town, the old sea air and the sun-kissed ground. Take me back to the place I know, sitting next to the water, smoking hand-rolled cigarettes, and I found love. In this town, Susie runs the bar, so the fella shows Susie the scars, just to feel homely, just to feel homely. It sends shivers down my spine, like the girl with the red dress on, those little boots you love, with your hair up in a bunch, and I say, hey, and I say, sitting at the bar talking with my friends about this wonderful girl I met. They said, slow down, slow down. How do I just jump up and go? This place is where I call home. Susie runs the bar, so the fella shows Susie the scars. It sends shivers down my spine, like the girl with the red dress on, those little boots you love, with your hair up in a bunch, and I say, hey, and I say, it sends shivers down my spine, like the girl with the red dress on, those little boots you love, with your hair up in a bunch, and I say, hey, and I
Well, there you go. I'll carry on as Paul's gone off chatting on the phone. That was, let me just get it now. That was the Southbank Crows, and yeah, he should be making his way back soon. I might actually, yeah.
Okay, I'm plugged in. Matt, are you there, mate?
Yeah, I can hear you nice and clear, mate. Play
Brilliant, and I
downstairs
can
for a little
hear
bit
you.
just while I do the phone call.
I
Thanks.
can hear you so clearly as well. Chris, is all the levels? I'm getting the
That's good.
thumbs up. Brilliant. Well, welcome back to the show, mate. How did Sports Day go, by the way? Because we had to cut it short last time.
Yeah, no, Sports Day went very well. Yes, she won 3 of her races and come second in another one. So she did she did really well.
Brilliant. So clearly, it's in the genes, isn't it?
Obviously, even I was quick at that age.
And it was like 27 degrees as well, so I'm
It was.
guessing that you're using the factor 50 because it did get hot during this summer.
Cool, absolutely. No, we've had a cracking summer down here, mate. It's been superb.
Let's first start off with the summer as well, and another sport that you're into, the cricket. The Indians are over here now, and we've got a couple of spin bowlers that have been picked for the first test at Edgbaston.
Indeed, yes, which is makes a nice change. I think we've struggled a little bit in that department through some of the generations, and it's a great weapon to have in your side. So it's nice to see some top class spinners coming through.
And also another summer sport that you're into, golf. How's the golf going, and what you playing off these days?
I've just gone up to 4, so just trying to get that back down again over the next few weeks. Playing a couple of competitions at my club at Stoneham and see if I can get back down to 3, which is the lowest I've ever been. So I don't want it to start creeping up now.
How difficult? Because I mean, I don't play golf. I'm left-handed, but whenever I try and pick up a cricket bat or a golf club, I try and play right-handed for some first reason, and and I'm awful. How difficult is it to go from 4 to 3?
When you're getting down to that kind of level, it requires a lot of practice, a lot of playing, and unfortunately, practice has never been the thing that I've been best at in my life. I just go out and play really, and the driving range isn't a friend of mine. I'll probably struggle to get any lower than 3 unless I really kind of threw myself into it and practiced properly and had a few more lessons.
Now, talking about practice and stuff, are we back to the sausage and egg McMuffin from McDonald's?
There's nothing wrong with them, mate. Very nice they were.
When was the last time you had one? Because I had one the other day. I think they are one of the best breakfasts ever. I think they're cracking.
They are absolutely superb. It's probably 2 weeks since I've last had one. I'm trying to be good at the minute and trying to lose some weight, so I'm trying to stay away from that kind of breakfast. Scrambled eggs on toast for me this morning.
Now, apologies, I haven't read your book yet, but
you don't have to apologise, mate.
But certainly I'm going to. Now,
I hope you enjoy it.
The foreword was Alan Shearer. He
It
wrote
was.
it, didn't he?
He did.
Because you played with Alan was it about 1995 he left and went to Blackburn? It was round about that time.
It was 1992 he left.
Oh, okay.
He made his debut in 1988 and left in 1992.
What was it like playing in the team with Alan Shearer? Let's start in them Southampton years.
In the Southampton years, it was great because our forward line consisted of Alan, myself, and Rodney Wallace, who were all pretty young lads at that point, and Paul Rideout occasionally when we went 4 up front. And it was a real good attacking side that we had, and Alan was, a very willing runner. He'd run into the channels all day long for you, and he often ended up setting up the goals for myself and Rodney to score. So Alan was kind of the third top scorer out of the 3 of us. But then he went to Blackburn, and they decided that actually they didn't want him running the channels. They had 2 really good wingers at Blackburn who'd love to cross the ball, and Alan stayed within the confines of the 18-yard box and got himself a bag full of goals, and rightly so. He's one of the strongest centre forwards all round that I saw in my time.
Because again, when you look back at the game, we're going to be looking forward a little bit later. But when you look back, I mean, Alan Shearer must have been one of the great centre forwards. The only thing that I don't like with the modern game is you've only got Shearer and now Rooney that have scored over 200 Premier League goals. But with you, for instance, and certainly Tony Cottee and players that were around and scoring goals before the Premier League started, for instance, you must have scored about 70 in the old First Division. So it's not just Shearer and Rooney that have scored 200 goals in the top flight. There's quite a few others as well, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you do feel sorry for the likes of as you say, Tony Cottee. He got an absolute bag full of goals in his career, but everybody seems to just dismiss the ones that were scored before 1992. which is a little bit of a shame. Football wasn't invented in 1992. Indeed, Alan Shearer himself scored goals before the Premier League inception. His debut was in '88, so he also had goals that haven't been counted on his record as of Premier League goals just because they were scored in the old First Division.
Now, the World Cup, England did pretty well. We've probably done better than what any of us thought. But when push did come to shove, it was that old Achilles heel that England wasn't creative enough in the middle of the park. We've done pretty well defensively and passing the ball out of defence.
Yeah.
But I looked at certain games and, when you're a defender, you're looking for midfield players to come on, side on, want the ball, show for the ball and move it. And we didn't particularly have that. So we used other ways of getting the ball more forward. And then when the ball's coming back at us, them defensive players come into their fore, really, the likes of Henderson. Yeah. So how do we change that? We haven't encouraged since the 70s the Maverick, have we? And we need to integrate Mavericks into our national side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gazza's probably about the exception to that rule where, he was kind of integrated into that team. But, even then he was left out of the World Cup squad in '98, although he was probably past his best at that point. But certainly there is always has been a reluctance to get that player that can do something a little bit different in there and who can unlock a defence with one pass. And that is definitely something that we that's something that we did struggle with. And I was a bit surprised that we didn't have an Adam Lallana or a Jack Wilshere included in the squad, even though I appreciate that Adam had missed quite a lot of the season through injury, but when you've got a 23-man squad there, you have got a license there for one or two players in there you can take a bit of a gamble on, and I'm surprised we didn't have that.
Yeah, I've said, I think we may have spoken about that last time, but I've certainly made it clear that I would have took Jack Wilshere because I think he's the one England player. And he has suffered with injuries and he probably has lost that little bit of acceleration. However, he's still got the eye for the pass. And
yes.
You then work Jackie Wilshere in a different way. He plays slightly different, but you get Jack on the ball because he can put that ammunition through to them forward players.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that was the one thing we missed. I think we did really, really well to get the semi-final. There was a lot of good things about our play. Our set pieces were exceptional. The defensive side of things was pretty good. And like you say, that was the one missing link that stopped us from going all the way, because I don't think we'll ever have a better chance of winning a World Cup, to be honest with you, the way that the draw panned out this year.
Now, a boy that I talk up an awful lot and get an awful lot of abuse, almost as much as you do with them idiots on Twitter. He's been a Birmingham City supporter and bought up Blues. I don't attend the games no more. My season ticket is in front of the telly and watching Sky. We're going to get onto Soccer Saturday in a bit. But I'm a big fan of Jack Grealish. I think that he's a fine player. He always finds space on the pitch. He works the ball in tight situations. He's got good feet. I think he's got great balance. For me, he is one that can go on and play at the top level. What's your opinion on Jack Grealish?
No, I'd agree with that. I think the boy's got everything. I think the one thing that he needs, which I think he probably showed more last season than I've seen from him before, was the right mental attitude towards the game. I think that side of things was a little bit questionable. He's got a little bit of a hot head. I can understand that. I was a little bit similar at that age myself. But as you get older, you mature a little bit, and he does seem to be maturing from what I saw last season of him. And I think you're right. He has all the attributes to be a big star. If he can just perhaps get the mental side of his game in the right place, and then, as you say, he does create space. He looked a stronger player to me last season when he was running with the ball. He looked like he could run away from people and he wasn't knocked off the ball quite so easily. And I think this season will be a huge season for him. It wouldn't surprise me if he was playing in the Premier League before the deadline anyway. But if he doesn't, then I'd certainly think come January, if he puts in another decent half a season, then I think there'll be people queuing up for him.
You see, again, this is the thing, isn't it? Because what Jack Grealish has to do is do what's best for him as a player. So it has to be the right move. The way I look at agents, and I don't know any agents. I'm just looking outside in. But where there's money about, they seem to look at what the best deal is financially, possibly for them, rather than what's the best move for that player. And I'm amazed, and I've spoke before about this, that players like Grealish, these top players that are going to be top players, why they don't work more on a one-to-one with former players like yourself, like Hudson, like Tony Curry, like players that had phenomenal ability, that have worn that T-shirt out and enthused us youngsters to go out and play the game.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. Myself and Franny Barley have set up a company. We look after a few young players, just a small little setup where we look after 7 or 8 young lads. And, it's something that we wanted to do because we could see exactly those pitfalls you're talking about. The players with an agent whose only interest is to see how much money he can make out of a deal, regardless of if the player that he's moving on is going to actually get game time at that football club, and if that's the best football club for his development. So that's what we did at 73 Management. We set out to be there for the player and not in it for ourselves.
Now, are you still doing it with 73 Management? And have you got Facebook? Have you got a Twitter? Because we'll link up, and I'll attach you to all my shows to give you as much publicity as what you deserve.
Yeah. At 73 Management on Twitter. You can find us there. We've got a website that you can get to through the Twitter page with all the details on there. So we're still going and still looking for a few more players. We only ever kind of wanted around a dozen players, so we can give them the proper attention that they need, and not kind of go mass produced, if you like.
Now, do you mind if I put our show in association with 73 Management as well as Griffiths Clothing? Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Great. What players have you got so far that you're working with? And going forward, what are you looking for in a player? Are you looking for a goalkeeper or defenders? Or
No, any position. The most important thing about the players we look for is that they want to get the most out of their careers and not just get the most out of their bank balance. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing. The right attitude is key to us, and if you're more interested in the lifestyle outside of football, then that's not kind of the players that we're looking to take under our belts.
Now, going back to because I'm going to dip into your autobiography, I've looked at some of the titles. Before we do, what players currently have you got on your books, Matt?
So we've got Jack Rose, who's the under 23 keeper at Southampton. Yeah. We've got Ollie Dyson, who's in the Huddersfield development squad. We've got Archie Thomas, who's up at Dundee United. We've also got a couple of lads who have been released from clubs who are looking to find clubs at the moment. So Matt Miles has been released by Leicester and Ellis Morel by Ipswich. So they're the kind of guys that we've got on our books. We've got Bailey Owen, who's up at Swansea, and we've got a couple that we're talking to at the moment, and just seeing if they're the right sort of people that want to work with us, and if we're the right sort of people that they want to work with.
It all sounds fantastic. What's your opinion on Mason Mount, the boy that's on loan at Derby? Because Frank's got the gig now at Derby, on loan from Chelsea. I've heard an awful lot of great things about young Mason.
I think there has been some talk about this boy being a pretty special player. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that's a tough league that he's going into. Yeah. and that'll be great for his development. I think it's a great thing for those sorts of players to go out and getting proper game time that's going to mean something. I've watched a fair bit of under 23 football the last couple of seasons, and it's not really at a level that's competitive enough for me that's going to test them when it comes to playing with the big boys. So I think going out on loan is the way forward for these kind of players, for sure.
Because again, in old money, what used to happen, you used to have like the kids, the reserve, the first team, you'd all train at the same places. If a couple of the first team players went down and you knew of one or two of the young kids that were showing promise, you'd say, lads, come and join in here with the training. They'd get to know the first teamers, and that's how they'd progress in the team, rather than stay in the 20s, stay in the 19s with their own age group, which is great, but they don't learn the game like you used to in the olden days.
No, that's exactly right. The under 23 stuff. There's not many kind of good old pros who are going to take you under their wing and teach you the ropes in the reserves as well. Like you used to have. I remember playing alongside Joe Jordan. In the reserve team at Southampton. If you can't learn from people like that, you're wasting your time. So it was great back in those days, because you started in the youth team. You then kind of, when you broke into the reserves, you had perhaps half the team in that reserve side were all guys who had played in the first team a lot and have just coming back from injury or had just been dropped, but most of them were good sorts who wanted to help you on your way.
Now, Joe Jordan, that's a name from the past. Scottish international, Leeds and Manchester United, an absolute monster of a player, and went on and he's still in the game coaching, isn't he? He was down on the south coast with Portsmouth at one time, wasn't he, Joe?
Yeah, Harry Redknapp took him around the places with him, he was a quite a scary bloke, to be honest. I used to be the one that had to clean his boots. I was Joe's apprentice at Southampton, and I had to make sure those everything was properly done, because if it wasn't, he would soon let you know, and he wasn't a bloke you wanted to get on the wrong side of.
He was fearsome. He was fearless, and he never had two front teeth as well, and he looked even scarier when he took them out to play. Now, I'm going to have a look at your autobiography here, and I've got there's a chapter about tours. We're going to have a chat about that. And I've looked at chapter 3, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 12, chapter 7, chapter 14. And if I go through them, it's knocked into shape by the hairdryer. I get Ron Atkinson fired and Fergie hired. Punch-ups, hangovers and ladyboys. Dodgy refs and hat-tricks. The whole book. Looking at the chapters, I want to read the whole of that book, because there seems some brilliant stories. And Saints, when they were on tour, them players, they partied hard, didn't they?
It was the done thing back in the day. It was a little mid-season break, and it was great for team bonding. Boys would go out together. They'd have a few. Most of them would be, quite sensible about it. Yes, we'd have a few, but if we knew we were training the next day, you had to get a decent amount of sleep in and make sure that everyone was fit to be able to train the next day. Obviously, if the next day was a day off, then you'd go at it a little bit harder, and that's just the way it was back then. And we played hard, and when we were off the pitch and we were on tour, we had fun.
Now, Southampton's finest hour, I'm guessing 76. A little bit before your time, because you're just a few years younger than me, but you would have remembered it. You probably would have still been a Tottenham fan in those days. But did you watch the cup final in '76? And was it Jim McCalliog's pass through to Bobby Stokes that backed the winner?
Yeah, I believe it was, and I think the '76 cup final was actually the first football match that I can remember watching on telly. I was 7 years old. Yeah. And I obviously the cup final was pretty much the only live game on telly during the whole football season. So you kind of got to remember them. I have no recollection of the '75 cup final, but I know exactly where I was watching the '76 one. It was incredible. And in those days, I was a Spurs fan, but when it came to the cup final, if Spurs weren't in it, then I'd always support the underdog. And obviously, Southampton being a division lower, were massive underdogs. And it was just lovely to see them, just put one over the big boys.
was again one of the greats, one of the Mavericks. Peter Osgood played in that final, didn't he, for Saints?
Yeah, it was top draw. Fantastic bloke as well. I got to know Pete quite a bit. He was down here before he passed away, bless him. So it was nice to get to know him. And yeah, I remember watching him obviously in the 70s when he was in his pomp, and some player he certainly was.
But again, that's the thing with Oz. He was, people say like the 70s, and he was great in the 70s, but Ozzy was great at the end of the 60s. Because I remember my dad telling me about Tommy Docherty's team and how he brought in these young kids, and the one kid in particular, Peter Osgood. And I watched the Mavericks film, which you were in that as well, wasn't you? We'll talk about that. And Rodney was saying about Peter Osgood, the greatest centre forward he's ever seen. And Alan Hudson, we do a regular show with Al. I speak to Al most days. He's over in Colorado with his baby at the moment. They've just smashed Wayne Rooney's nose in. I don't think Wayne's very happy about it. But I would say Peter Osgood's the greatest player. I mean, Oz, on his day, I think when you're looking at, again, central forwards like Shearer of modern days, Peter Osgood was every inch as good as a Shearer. Yeah,
obviously it was only being born in 1968. I didn't remember the Aussie from the late 60s, but certainly from what I saw of him, I think that's a pretty decent comparison. He was one of those centre forwards who had so much in his locker, that and he could look after himself as well. He was no shrinking violet when it came to looking after himself, and you've got to have that as a centre forward when centre backs are looking to bully you. The one thing you've got to have is a bit of mental toughness, a bit of physical strength, and Peter had everything of that.
And much, much more. And
absolutely.
And again, with his manager, Dave Sexton, it kind of didn't really fit that. I mean, Alan would tell me they'd have a bull and a cow quite often, and almost come to blows round the back of Stamford Bridge somewhere where they say, let's sort it out round the corner, but it never quite comes to that. Although when he went and played for Saints with Laurie McMenemy, I'm guessing the ideal manager for Ozzy to go and play for.
Yeah, definitely. I think Laurie was famous for his man management and getting the best out of players and letting men be men, and often the players would sort the problems out in the change room themselves without Laurie even having to say anything, because he'd got the right mixture of players in there that he knew could look after people, and certainly Pete was one of them.
Now, I don't want to give too much away about the book, because I want people to buy the book, because it's still out there. we do.
Well, it's a bit old now. It's about 9 years ago now.
You wrote it, 2010. However, the thing is, Matt, with your autobiography, you aren't going to play any more games of football. So that is the Bible of your playing days of football.
It is.
So it never changes. You can pick up an autobiography. I mean, Alan's working class ballet. Sorry, the working man's ballet. Blimey, Uddy, he'll kill me for that. But again, it's written in. That was written in 1997. So it's all about Alan's playing career. And when I read a biography or an autobiography, all I want to know is the football. I don't care about anything else. It's the football that I judge a footballer on, and that's solely.
Yeah, no, that's what you're all about, really. As a player, you just want to be remembered by the way that you went about your business, the way you did your job. Because first and foremost, that's what you were there for. That's what you got paid for. Yeah. Everything else that happens around it is a bit of fun, and you have your controversial moments, and that kind of comes and goes. But at the end of the day, when you get old and you want people to talk about you, you want them to talk about what you could do on a football pitch, not what happened to you off the pitch.
Exactly. One story we're just going to touch upon, because as I say, we don't want to give too much away, but we want people to buy the book. How hard did Chris hit Mark Dennis when he was 13 and 14?
Well, I was an apprentice at that stage, so I'd have been 16, I think. 16. It must have been a pretty decent hit, because the eye was cut and stitches were involved. So it would have been a decent strike.
Almost as good as your penalties.
Yeah, I like taking them. They were fun.
And that's again another thing with psychology. I mean, there's so much psychology that goes into football, whether it be back in the day or now. And England talking about, we need to talk through penalties. We need a psychologist to talk the player through the process. And I'm thinking, why don't they just phone up Matt and have a chat with Matt or have a one-to-one? Because he's the greatest penalty taker of all time.
Well, I might be stretching it a little bit, but yeah, it surprised me a little bit that in this day and age when they look at every last detail and every small percentage that you can get better, that nobody's actually asked to just say, okay, you were quite good at them. What was the key for you? But yeah, nobody's really ever done that apart from Oxford United, who asked me to go and chat to their players about it a few years ago.
I just find it absolutely bizarre because, say, 47 out of 48, you missed the one, Crossley saved it, but you did bag another 4 against him. So
yeah,
you 4-1 weren't bad. But you're looking at that ratio, that must be about 99%. There's not many penalty takers in the history of football that have got that percentage of hits.
Yeah, I mean, from that number of penalties taken, that's pretty good. I'm sure there are players who have maybe got 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20, but you can kind of take nearly 50 penalties and only miss one. That's a pretty decent strike rate and one that I've been incredibly proud of.
Superb. Home or away? I've always struggled with this. You're looking at a great team, and if you're looking at the top teams, they do usually do well, especially at St Andrews when they used to come and play Birmingham. But what's the fundamental difference of you playing at home? Because your home form is always so much greater than your away form. What is the fundamental difference with playing home or playing away?
I think there's two differences really. I think the expectation levels on you are greater when you're playing at home because obviously 90% of the crowd want you to win. So you have that support from the terraces, which gives you a little bit extra. The second thing for me, I think, was the attitude of the manager and the way that he sets his team up to go and play a game away from home. It's the thought process that we're away from home. Actually, a point would be a decent result here. When in fact, if you were just as positive away from home as you are at home, then yes, you'll lose games, but you'll probably win a few more. With the 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw, it's obviously far more beneficial to go out and try and win football matches. So I think that those were the two main differences for me.
So when you have a manager like, say, for instance, Ian Branfoot, your wings would have been really clipped. And then when you had a manager like Alan Ball, the legend, one of the greatest players that we've ever had in English football, your wings are extended, and it's when you get the ball, give it Matt. Simple.
Yeah. That was a lovely time in my career when Ball was my manager. That was to have the belief of the manager in you that he's basically telling everyone in the team, that's your best player. As soon as you get the ball, try and give it to him. The confidence that gave me was unbelievable, and that 18 months when Ball was my manager was just the best 18 months of my career. And
probably the best player that you've ever played with as well in training. Probably.
Yeah, he still could do. Yeah, he still joined in little one touch in the five-a-sides. He was still very sharp.
Well, again, a lot of people think that Alan Ball was just a runner, but Uddy always says to me, Alan Ball was the best player I've ever played with. He was the best one-touch player, and he was just different class. And you look at what he done at 66 and 70, and he said, what a great man. And some of his stories with the England call-ups, going out on a booze with Borley, absolutely legendary. And, much missed in the game. Now, being a Spurs fan, Tottenham are returning to White Hart Lane, although it's just... not the place where
the Tottenham Hotspur
to.
Stadium, you mean?
Exactly, yeah. Why don't they call it something like White Hart Lane? And how different and difficult is it? Because teams have had this when they move back to a new stadium, and that form isn't as good as what your home form necessarily would be like? Because you scored the last goal at the Dell, and then you then went and played at St Mary's. So talk me through that process. How different is it, Matt, playing at that new ground?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It does take a bit getting used to. It's almost, it's very different surroundings. So you just got used to the dimensions of the pitch. You could almost, tell where you were on the pitch with a little glance to the stands, because you kind of got so intimate with your surroundings. And it does take a little while to get that back again. And yeah, Southampton certainly struggled early on at St Mary's. And so that, and the other thing is everybody on the opposition who's coming to your ground is like, oh, a new stadium to play at. It gives you just like a little bit of an extra buzz and an extra few % on your game that you're playing in this lovely, shiny, brand new stadium. So that's what Spurs are going to have to contend with this season.
Now, can you just say as well hello to massive fan Gary Challinor?
Hi, Gary.
Chancellor. Okay, it's
Gary
his
Chancellor.
Gary Chancellor. And,
no problem.
And thanks for doing that shirt, that signing, mate, the other day as well.
No problem.
It was very, very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Where was I? Do you know when you kind of lose the train of thought momentarily? But it's like anything when you're playing in that game. Sometimes it don't quite go the way that you want to. But then
absolutely. You've got to adapt.
You pass the ball, you keep it short, you grow into it, and then you get back out and you're in the swim. A little bit like, as you say, moving from that old stadium to the new stadium. You get your surroundings and you're back, you're up, and you're running. Soccer Saturday, are we going to be seeing that up and running this Saturday? Because it's the start of the Championship, isn't it? Premier League starts the week after.
It does indeed, yes. So, the usual four that are on there, we do our first week on the weekend the Premier League starts. So there is a Soccer Saturday this Saturday, but with different personnel.
Who's going to be the Soccer Saturday? Is it the same ones when the Premier League starts off?
Yes. Yeah. It is myself, Phil Thompson, Paul Merson and Charlie Nicholas are all back on again for another season. So it's been quite a few years now. So hopefully we're not boring anyone.
we see, the thing is, again, you do get this on Twitter when they say, oh, you need to freshen it up, you need to get some more modern day players. My opinion is no. I mean, my mum loves Phil Thompson because he looks like a brother. So she likes Phil. She's always liked Phil, and I like Phil. My mum's favourite is you. I'll be absolutely honest. Oh, Matt, let's see. Oh, Matt's lovely, and I think Charlie was different class. And on the Mavericks, I was watching him, and he was talking about when he went to Arsenal, it didn't quite click for him because he hadn't got the midfield player that could put that pass through to him. Going back to what we were saying about earlier, and sometimes when a player is sold and the other team buys him, the fans will go, "Oh, he's bloody awful. He was great when he was at Ipswich or Southampton," but it's because the player is asked to play almost a different game, and it's sometimes a game that's alien to him. So why buy the player and play him in a different way that caught your eye and you bought him in the first place?
I know, that doesn't make any sense at all. It's just one of those things in football. But sometimes the manager changes as well after you've been bought, and then he comes in, and then it's that's a different challenge altogether. And if the manager takes an instant dislike to you, it's very difficult to change his mind. And I think that might be one of the things that happened with Charlie and George Graham.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with Terry Neal as well. He wasn't a fan of Terry Neal. Neither was Al. Monday night football. Now, the Championship kicks off, and Monday night, Aston Villa travel all the way up to Hull. I remember watching you back in the day, Monday night football, playing against Newcastle and scoring them 2 wonderful goals.
Sunday afternoon that was.
Oh, was it a Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, okay. The reason why you think it was a night game is because it was the back end of October, and it was dark quite early, and the clocks had just gone back, and it was just starting, so the floodlights were on a little bit, I think. So, but it was definitely a Super Sunday game, that one.
Well, it was 2 super strikes, although you didn't like the first one when you flicked it over 2 players' heads and knocked it in because it came off your studs.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
No, but it wasn't your favourite.
It wasn't perfect.
That's
wasn't exactly how I wanted to finish it, but it ended up in the right place.
To everybody else that was watching that game, everybody was off their seats going, the man's a magician, the man's a magician.
The mad thing was I'd actually, before that game, I'd been dropped for 5 games. Ian Bramford left me out of the team, and that was my comeback game. So it was good timing, that.
So let's talk briefly about that, because how does a manager like Ian Bramford, A, get the job at Southampton, and then B, drop you? It's bizarre.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what the process was behind that. I know that Ian was a youth team coach at Southampton, many years before that.
Yeah.
And I think I know he must have been well in with someone on the board that thought that this was going to be a good idea, and this was the kind of football that Southampton fans wanted.
I've just gobsmacked.
I was.
Did he actually come to you, Matt, and say, "Look, Matt, you're not my kind of player," and you're like, you'd stand there for a minute, like, laugh in his face, and like, what kind of player do you want? And then, like, I'm dropping you from the team, or did you just look at the team sheet and your name wasn't on it?
It was pretty much, he'd pick the team on a Friday morning, and I'd be, maybe training with the reserves or something, sent off, and that was kind of the way you found out. Yeah, there was none of this pinning the team up on the board and having a look at it. It was kind of announced in training, or sometimes an hour before kickoff. But the one thing he wouldn't do when he dropped me, he actually dropped me right out the team. He wouldn't actually just drop me to the bench, because he knew that if I was on the bench, that the crowd would just be baying for me to come on as soon as possible.
And thankfully, against Newcastle, you did come on, and you put right a massive, massive wrong. Incredible. Going back to Monday Night Football, do you think because of the travelling, I mean, the fans pay an absolute fortune these days, and again, back at work on the Monday, they've got to travel all the way up there. Do you not think that Monday Night Football, they should be local games, they should be derby games?
That would be, I think that would be a decent idea, to be honest. But I think the money has taken over football so much, and the TV companies, and I work for one of them, but I don't think that they put the fans' priorities at the top of their list, unfortunately. When I think that at times, they have to realise that it's because of the fans that, the fans that fill the stadium, that everybody wants to watch this great product. I mean, it's all right having these fantastic players and all this money coming in, but let me tell you, if they were playing to empty stadiums, sponsors wouldn't be interested.
Yes.
And that's what they've got to realise, that sometimes you have to, take the fans' feelings into consideration.
Now, these modern day pre-season tours seem to have, I mean, in some quarters, yes, they've filled the grounds. I know Chelsea did in Perth. But on other instances and situations, grounds haven't been full. Now, they moan that they play too many games, football clubs. They moan about the travelling that they have to do, especially when they've got a Champions League game that they're playing in Europe. So they might be going to France, to Manchester. Yet at this time of the year, I know the World Cup players haven't been involved, but they don't think twice about going from Manchester Airport all the way to Singapore or Australia or New York, and it just seems absolutely bizarre. And I'll lay you a pound to a penny on Soccer Saturday, you'll be talking about one of the managers, and probably Jose, saying how tired they are with all this travelling.
I know, it's crackers. It really is, and it's just, again, it's all about greed. It's all about making money and just flogging the players, really. If you were a manager and you had a blank sheet and you had no pressures from sponsors or anything, all your pre-season training would be done, in this country, or a short flight into Europe, and done in climates that are, what the lads are going to be playing in when they start the season. All the travelling, it does surprise me that they put themselves under that much pressure from their sponsors, that they have to go, all the way around the world in pre-season, and players are going to be starting the season, and you're probably thinking, actually, you're probably still getting over jet lag.
Yeah, yeah,
Which
literally.
is a bit crazy.
Another bit of jet lag I can see in the generation will be the 39th game. There was talk about it. It's on the back burner. I don't think it's gone away. And I think they might have the 39th game or the 40th game, or even play Premier League games during the season on foreign soil, because they have done that in American football, haven't they? So there is a precedent out there in sport.
There is a precedent. Whether or not it will work in this country, I'd be surprised. You know, I mean, just because it happens in America doesn't mean that it's right. I mean, they have no idea what relegation and promotion means in America. Do you know what I mean? They don't know what a draw is. So not all things are great that come out of America, and I don't think that's an idea that's, for me, one that would work. Is the English Premier League. You play your games in England, and I don't know. I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to that stuff.
I personally would absolutely hate it. I don't like it when the games are all over the place. As a fan, when I used to go and pay to watch it, I thought it was an absolute nightmare. I quite like it now because I just turn on the TV and there's a game on. But it is the fans' game. It's all about the fan. And I do think because of all the money that's coming in, and you've got Amazon, you've got others that are going to come to the party, I can see Man United versus Liverpool in Miami or in Sydney, and they've got the fan base out there because they've been going out there for a generation, sowing the seed. So I think it will be the natural next step, and I think they've also been edging on a European Super League for some time as well, but I just think that they're still a bit sceptical, and I think that's why the Champions League has evolved as it has done today.
Yeah, no, that's pretty true. The thing about football is that it does seem to be a lot of greed at the top level, and the rich wanting to get richer and not really caring about treading on the little ones down below them, and that's something that I think you have to fight against, because they have to realise that the reason why they're in those positions is because they've got competition, and it's a fact of life, and that's what keeps people interested, is the competition. If you just want to keep squashing all the little people at the bottom just because you're bigger than them and you've got more fans and more money, then you're going to kill the sport.
I agree. I mean, I've been saying for some time, I wish that the bubble had burst. I wish that, they've been cooking this goose that laid the golden egg for so long. Let's get back to reality. Let's give football back to the fans. It is, after all, the fans' game. Who's going to win the Premier League this season? Who's your money on?
It would have to be some collapse from Man City, really, for them to be able to let somebody else in and take over them. I mean, there's a different class last season. You'd probably look at the signings that the other clubs have made and say that Liverpool might get close to them. But I honestly can't see too many other clubs who can lay a glove on Man City, to be honest with you. So I just hope it's a more competitive league this season, and that we get down to the final couple of games and still don't know who's won. That'd be nice.
Be great if Manchester City were playing Liverpool last game of the season, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Who spent the money the most wisely?
Well, time will tell with that,
money.
Because we've looked at transfer windows in the past. A couple of seasons ago, everyone thought Everton had done great business and were going to be great, and then manager gets sacked. They were, bottom half of the table, and you just think, blimey, it's difficult to predict. Obviously, West Ham has spent a lot of money. Look like they've got some decent players in, but at the end of the day, it's whether those players actually fit into the league, fit into the side that they're playing in, and how well the manager can get the best tune out of them. So it's not always about how much you spend. It's about how wisely you spend it, I guess.
Yeah. And finally, Matt, how much fun is it how much fun do you have making Soccer Saturday? Because it looks as though you just turn up with your sandwiches and you got your cup of tea and Jeff's there, and you just have a laugh while passing comments, and when the goals are coming in, then Kamara may even spot the odd one.
Yeah, no, it's great fun. It certainly doesn't feel like you're going to work, and that for me, in my life has kind of been the way that I've managed to do it. Straight from school, going into playing football, never felt like I was going to work. Well, maybe apart from pre-season, but But yeah, it is just a great laugh and chatting about the thing we love the best with our mates.
And the Championship, I know, it is all about the Premier League, sadly, these days, but the Championship, very, very competitive league. You almost look at, any of them teams should either get relegated, promoted, or win it. If I was going to give you your last fiver, who would you put it on to come out of the Championship into the Premier League for next season?
I like a bit of a long shot, so not really much of a favourite packer. So if I had a fiver in the Championship, I think Nottingham Forest might be a little dark horse this season, and perhaps at some decent odds might give you a bit of value for your money.
Yeah. And the playoff final will be between Birmingham City and Aston Villa.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
I think the Met Police, there'd be nobody having a day off.
You're right there, mate.
And it is a mad city because we've had the ups and downs. I mean, one looks as though it's going into administration, and billionaire owners come and put it back to where it was once upon a time, perhaps. And Birmingham City go from one disaster to another seamlessly.
Indeed. Well, let's hope for better things for both clubs.
Brilliant. Matt, can I thank you so much for your time, pal? And we'll speak soon.
Mate.
Cheers,
You're welcome.
mate.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you. Cheers, Matt. Joining us on the line now is Small Faces guru John Hellier. John, how are you?
I'm fine, Gabby. Yourself?
Yeah, Chris, any chance of turning that record off, please?
Yeah,
well done. It's all right.
Tell you what to do.
Welcome to the show, mate, and you're no stranger
mate.
to the Biscuit Boys show.
No, it's always my pleasure, Gabby. It's a great show, mate.
I mean, the last time we spoke, you was writing the book on Ronnie Lane.
Yeah, it seems a long time ago now. That's been out over a year, and it's doing well. But we're moving on to other things now.
Now, when you say it's doing well, it's like gone to iTunes and stuff in the United States of America. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Well, yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I mean, Lewis Griffiths Publishing have sort of been dealing with all of that, and they're just the best, aren't they? So you know that yourself. So I leave all that side of it to Lewis, and I just sort of concentrate on producing the goods, really.
Lewis is an absolute top diamond. He could actually sell sand to the Arabs, couldn't he?
Yeah, that's very good. I like that one. I'll use that one.
And how's the Friday Club going, just before we get into the Small Faces talk? Because you guys are having such fun on a Friday. Captain Rum, Al, yourself, and you've got another book that's on the back burner as well that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, working with Alan and meeting Alan, it's just pure pleasure, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as I say, that's actually something for a little bit further down the line. We're working on that project next. But at the moment, so my latest project, along with Griffiths Publishing, is this Small Faces book.
Yeah. Tell me about it, John, and because you've written the book on Ronnie. And you wrote a book before about Steve. So how does this Small Faces book differ to books that you've written in the past about the London Fab Four?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, this is what it is basically. You could liken this book to a record. It's like a literary version of a greatest hits album, because it's simply a collection of some of the best articles to grace the pages of 40 issues of the Darlings of Wapping Wolf fanzine, which I've been doing producing for the best part of the last quarter of a century, really. I mean, how it all came about was, going back to the sort of mod revival of 1979, which was kicked off by the movie Quadrophenia. The whole of that mod revival really revolved around the Who, and sort of throughout the sort of 80s and the early 90s, the Small Faces were largely forgotten, really. There was the occasional compilation album or two, but virtually nothing. So as a fan since 1965, just imagine my joy when I stumbled across a fanzine called Darlings of Wapping Wolf Laundrette E1. This was around about 1993. It was produced by two fellas, a guy called Steve Chamberlain from Liverpool and a guy called Stuart Wright from East London. And it was produced on a shoestring budget, incredibly sort of cut and paste, but it was all that was out there, and it really excited me. So I sort of wrote to them, I told them of my delight, and offered to write a story for issue 2. They took me up on my offer, and further contributions from myself appeared in issues 3 and 4. After which the fanzine was really folding, due mainly to the fact that very few people were buying it. I couldn't really stand by and see it die, so I sort of stepped in and took over the editorship from issue 5, and from that day onwards I sort of took it up market with a new glossy 40-page format, and the magazine never looked back. From that moment onwards, the popularity and the readership soared, and by sort of issue 20 it was easily the biggest selling self-published fanzine in the country, overtaking the long-established Eric Clapton magazine called Where's Eric? And of course, it was attracting sort of readers worldwide. I was amazed, really. Fans were purchasing from literally every continent on the planet, and then obviously with the advent of the internet, it's grown in stature and sales ever more. 40 issues on, time for a Best Bits compilation in the form of an A5 book, and that's basically where we're at with it, Gabby.
Now, recordings of, because again, it's Small Faces. There's no "the" is there in it, but it's very hard to say Small Faces without putting the in front.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I mean, but people can sort of argue about whether it should have a "the" in front of it or not. But it's all quite relevant, really. I mean, it's all about the music and the image, isn't it? I mean,
Exactly.
they were they were a great band musically, but I mean, was there ever a better looking band? I don't think so.
I don't think there was a more, because they called Small Faces because they literally were all about 5'6", wasn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, 5'5", you were almost there. I mean, yeah, I mean that they looked perfect, didn't they? I mean, and for an old mod like me, you know, image was everything. You know, image was as important as the music, really. And yeah, they were all 5'5" tall. This is, but by the time Ian McLagan joined them on keyboards, the original keyboard player was a bit bigger. But I mean, they looked manufactured, but they weren't. You know, I mean, they looked as if somebody had gone out there and you know, cherry picked them and put them all together. But it was pure coincidence.
And they also did a lot of mad stuff, didn't they? You know, like some of the lyrics, there was a lot of humour in Small Faces lyrics. It was almost as though, like, we're writing and we're having a right laugh here. When they're on stage, they looked as though they were having... They looked as though they were there because they wanted to be, and look at us, we're doing what we want to do in our unique manner.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they never formed with the idea of becoming stars. You know, it was all just a bit of a laugh, and they were just playing sort of local, you know, bars and the odd wedding or two. You know, but the idea it was just to have fun, basically. You know, and obviously it all sort of took off from there. But I mean, by the time they split, sort of, I mean, they were only together sort of. Less than 4 years, you know. They encompassed just about every genre in the book. You know, they were an R&B band, they were a psychedelic band. They covered soul, pop, comedy, you know, music hall even. If you take the likes of sort of the influences behind songs like Lazy Sunday, you know. But it was just pure fun, you know. I mean, at the beginning of the day, you know, when they got together, all they ever wanted to be was the East End of London's own version of Booker T and the MGs. That was the band that they all sort of dug, you know. And then by the time they got their second keyboard player, Ian McLagan, you know, they were almost there, if you like. You know, when you listen to some of those instrumentals they were doing, they were fabulous, you know. But then, of course, you know, they became pop stars. You know, they started having hit singles and whatever. And although they soon tired of that image, you know, I mean, I'm sure it was fun at the time. I mean, you know, they were young teenage boys. You know, they're girls chasing them down the street. I mean, who wouldn't sort of want that, if you like? Yeah. You know, they enjoyed it. Of course they did. But I think the novelty of it all soon wore off. You know. And, by the time they sort of joined Immediate in '67, you know, they were a lot more sort of serious, if you like.
Any favourite tracks for you, John? And also old recordings? And are you privy to any of that stuff that they've done? Have you got the whole? You know, do you own any of the catalogues of recordings of the Small Faces as well?
I've got some. Previously unreleased stuff that's you know, some of it's great quality, some of it's not so great quality, but it's all interesting. I mean, the most interesting track isn't actually Small Faces. It's a solo thing that Steve done in October 1964. He was sort of cutting demos for sort of up and coming songwriters down in Denmark Street at the Regent Sound Studio. And he cut a track called "Give All She's Got," which was it was a Barry Mason song that was later recorded by a band called Gary Farr and the T-Bones. But if you listen to that, and it is available. It is available. I mean, it's available now anyway. You know, through our own sort of Whopping Wolf Records. But this is Steve, 17 years old on this recording, and he really does sound like a middle-aged sort of black man from Memphis. You know, his voice is absolutely sort of you know, on the ball, and that track it's got a fantastic sort of Hammond organ running all the way through it, and an anonymous Hammond organ. You know, nobody to this day sort of knows who was actually playing that. It's been rumoured that possibly Keith Emerson he was doing sessions at the same time, but nobody really knows. But I mean, that track is the most exciting. I mean, it really is when you listen to that, it's a real sign of what was to come, if you like, with Steve. Small Faces tracks. I mean, you know, as I said just now, they played every genre in the book, really. But a particular favourite of mine, strangely enough, and it is a strange choice, because it's actually the B-side of their very first single, and it's not even one of their own songs. It's a cover version. It's called "What's the Matter, Baby," an old Timmy Euro song. And I've always been absolutely sort of astounded by that. You know, I remember buying the single back in the day, and hardly playing the sort of A side at all. You know, I was always taken with that track, and when I listen to it now, sort of over half a century later, it sounds every bit as good to me now as it did sort of back then. I'd say that was my favourite track, and that's a strange one to say. You know, not all the classics that they ended up sort of writing and recording, but I've sort of picked a cover version from their earliest of early days. You know,
Again, that's the thing about music, isn't it? You listen to a track and something does. It does something to you inside, doesn't it? I mean, the Small Faces track that I mean, like HQ Park and All or Nothing, great songs, and you know, big hits and whatever. But I like Get Yourself Together, because the Jam done that on the Jam Extras album, and again, Weller was just such a massive fan of Steve Marriott. I think if you listen to Steve's voice, I mean, his vocals are as good as any artist that we've ever produced.
Definitely. Well, Get Yourself Together is an interesting track, really, because you know, Paul sort of loved that track, and he actually performed that track for me when we done the Steve Marriott Memorial Show a long time ago now. But Paul Weller sort of mentioned the track to Ian McLagan all those years later, and Ian McLagan couldn't remember it. He couldn't remember the track, and Paul had to play it to him, if you like, to jog his memory. It was just a track that they went in, recorded for an album back in '67, and never played again. It was never played live on stage. It was, you know, the only time he ever played it was when they recorded it, you know, and it was a complete one-off. But yes, what a great track, fabulous track, you know, fabulous track. I mean, it's sort of catchy, and it's also got a good hook line, good melody.
And again, also, I know it wasn't with Small Face, it was Ronnie when he left, but I absolutely love The Poacher. I think that song is one of my favourite records of all time. I just think it's got absolutely everything in that song. Yeah,
it was, you know, Ronnie in his the 70s after the Faces, you know, it's you know, we could talk all night about that. I mean, he wrote such classic songs, didn't he? You know, and as the years progressed, you know, I think Ronnie's songwriting got better and better, whereas possibly Steve's stood still. You know, I think I mean, there's no doubt about it. In the Small Faces, you know, Steve was the lead man. But from around about the beginning of the Immediate era, '67, you know, that first Immediate album, and that, you know, Ronnie did started coming into his own, if you like. You know, on that first Immediate album, he sort of he at least 50% of that material, perhaps a bit more, is Ronnie's, you know, and he shares lead vocals. So that was his sort of coming of age, really. But then obviously at the end of the Small Faces, he went into the Faces, and he was just stifled by Rod, really. You know, he was writing all these great songs, but wasn't really allowed to perform them live on stage. Whether that was, you know, Rod's fault or the management's fault, I don't know. But obviously, you know, Ronnie's songs were that good, and they needed to be heard.
I suppose, really, when you look at Ron, he was born on April Fool's Day, wasn't he? He always like has that lovable look and smile on his face, doesn't he, Ronnie Lane? And you've like Marriott's kind of left, and then in comes Rod Stewart. So you go from one legend and icon to another one, and then like, you know.
Yeah. Rod went on to be that legend, but I mean, obviously at the time of Rod joining the band, he was probably the most sort of unknown guy in the band. You know, I mean, he'd been around the London scene a long while, you know, with some great bands, Steam Packet and etc. But he'd never sort of had any commercial success up until the Faces. You know, I mean, he was a muso sort of singing. You know, all the people in the business sort of all loved the Jeff Beck group, and they loved all the stuff that Rob was doing. But he didn't really have any commercial success until probably Maggie May, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's probably the first, yeah. So yes, he did become this worldwide superstar that he is today, and good luck to him. But obviously, he and Ronnie Lane clashed right until the end.
I can hear the chords of Get Yourself Together starting, so we're going to have to finish here. Anything that people, your new book is on all the w's.the-small-faces.co.uk website. Is that where everything is and where you can get everything from?
No, not really. No, I mean, first of all, I mean, my own site, which is whoppingwolf.com, www.whoppingwolf.com. That covers everything that I've ever done. But I mean, the Small Faces site that you've just mentioned is basically for this book. You can get this book on there. There's a Whopping Wolf Laundrette Best Bits. It's a 400-page book, I might add. It's quite a sort of chunky book, and it's the type of book that doesn't need to be read start to finish. You know, you can simply sort of flick through and read bits at random. You know, and that's available from whoppingwolf.com and the Small Faces site that you've just mentioned. But the other projects that we've done with Lewis is, you know, that basically they've got their own website set up for each item. You know, the real Pete Meaden book and the Ronnie Lane book, etc. But just before I go, can I just say a quick thank you to just a couple of people, because I'd like to obviously thank.
Yeah, just turn off, get yourself together, and come back again. He's going on the loop.
I won't be a couple of seconds, mate.
John, you take as much time as you like, pal. You're the Small Faces guru.
well, I'd like to thank every single fan that ever contributed a story or purchased a copy of the magazine, because you know, without them, you know, the magazine wouldn't have gone on for as long as it did, and we wouldn't have this wonderful book that I've got in front of me now. I'd also love a little thanks to my graphic designer for the last 25 years, a guy called Brian Guy, because I say that because most of the original artwork, at least, you know, 90% of it, on the scanned pages of this new book, you know, are his. It's his work, you know. So I'd like to give him a plug, and of course, massive thanks to Lewis Griffiths and Griffiths Publishing for their belief in this book, well, their belief in me generally. Actually, you know, as we said earlier, you know, Lewis is the best. You know that, Gabby.
Yeah. No, he's an absolute top man, and the Small Faces are, and so is Hudson. You know, so, you're covering some great ground, and some ground that I love. And long may it continue, John, because we're just keeping the dream alive, ain't we, and keeping the memories alive, and that's what it's all about.
I think so. Yeah, I love doing what I'm doing, and if other people enjoy it, you know, that's all the better. But I mean, the Alan Hudson book is the next project, and that's going to be absolutely, you know, outstanding. But yeah, no doubt we'll talk about that at a date sometime in the future.
We certainly will be, and it's going to be called An Audience with Alan Hudson, isn't it?
Of course, because you know Alan's got these fantastic stories that you know better than anybody, Gabby. You know better than anybody, mate. Fabulous stories. You know, he could talk for England, but it's interesting. It's good stuff. He's not boring at all. He is an incredible man. He was an incredible footballer, and he's an incredible storyteller, and that's what we want to sort of. We want to relay some of those stories in the book. It'll be good, yeah, it'll be great. I'm looking forward to sort of getting into it.
And isn't it wonderful that Uddy's such a great guy, you know, such a wonderful footballer, and you know, whether you talk to him for the first time or you meet him for the first time, it's as though he's been your mate for like 100 years. He's so warm and so friendly.
He was a real sort of hero of mine back in the day, because I mean, you know, as I say, as an old mod, you know, I'm always sort of into sort of imaging what something looked like, and Alan was a great footballer, but he looked the part, didn't he? He looked fabulous. He looked fabulous, you know. That early 70s, you know, the hair was just spot on, and everything about Alan Hudson sort of excited me, and you know, to be working with him all these years later is absolutely marvellous.
Fantastic. Well, John, we got to go because Chris has turned it up even louder. He's got to shoot. He's got to get back to work.
Sorry, mate.
So, John, can I thank you so much for your time, mate? And
Thank you,
when your
Gabby.
new book's out as well, we'll look up again. So God bless you, mate. And
Thanks
thank you
very
so
much,
much.
Gabby. All the best.
Cheers, John. Cheers, pal.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Hang on, stay online.
Get yourself together,
So,
and you'll be alright.
we'll say goodnight.
Good night, good afternoon, good day. Thanks for listening, watching. We're going to leave you with the wonderful Small Faces.
No, we're not. Good night.